Good morning, and welcome to World in 15, your trusted source for comprehensive coverage of today's most pressing events, delivered with accuracy, integrity, and insight.
The Israeli military has confirmed the deaths of 4 individuals who were abducted by Hamas on October 7th. These men, identified as British Israeli Nadav Popplewell, 51, Shane Perry, 79, Yoram Metzger, 80, and Amiram Cooper, 85, were killed during an Israeli operation in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza. Their bodies remain in the possession of Hamas. IDF spokesman Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari stated that recent intelligence led to this conclusion, adding that the men were together at the time of their deaths. We shall be reporting on this.
Hamas previously claimed that Nadav Popplewell died in an Israeli airstrike in April, but this was only confirmed recently. The UK Foreign Office is investigating the matter. All 4 men were taken from kibbutzes near the Gaza Strip on October 7th. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum expressed profound sorrow, urging leaders to reflect deeply on the tragedy, noting that the hostages should have returned alive. UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron expressed his condolences on social media, stating he was deeply saddened by Nadav Popplewell's death and extended his sympathies to his family during this difficult time. Nadav Popplewell was abducted with his mother, who was later released, while his brother Roy was killed in the same attack. During the October attacks, Hamas killed approximately 1,200 people and took 251 hostages, according to Israeli authorities. Following a week-long truce in November, 105 civilians were released, but around 120 hostages remain missing, with many presumed dead. Israel initiated a military campaign to dismantle Hamas in retaliation for the cross-border assault. The conflict has resulted in over 36,470 deaths in Gaza over the past 8 months, as reported by the Hamas-run health ministry. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
The Israeli military has verified the deaths of 4 individuals who were abducted by Hamas on October 7th. These men, identified as British Israeli Nadav Popplewell, 51, Shane Perry, 79, Yoram Metzger, 80, and Amiram Cooper, 85, were killed during an Israeli operation in Khan Yunis, southern Gaza. Their bodies are still being held by Hamas. IDF spokesperson Rear Admiral Daniel Hagari reported that recent intelligence led to this conclusion, noting the men were together at the time of their deaths. We have Anthony reporting on this.
Previously, Hamas claimed that Nadav Popplewell had died in an Israeli airstrike in April, but this was only confirmed recently. The UK Foreign Office is investigating the matter. All 4 men were taken from kibbutzes near the Gaza Strip on October 7th. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum expressed deep sorrow, urging leaders to reflect on the tragedy, emphasizing that the hostages should have returned alive. UK Foreign Secretary David Cameron expressed his condolences on social media, stating he was greatly saddened by Nadav Popplewell's death and extended his sympathies to his family during this difficult time. Nadav Popplewell was abducted with his mother, who was later released, while his brother Roy was killed in the same attack. During the October attacks, Hamas killed around 1,200 people and took 251 hostages, according to Israeli authorities. Following a week-long truce in November, 105 civilians were released, but approximately 120 hostages remained missing, many presumed dead. Israel initiated a military campaign to dismantle Hamas in retaliation for the cross-border assault. The conflict has resulted in over 36,470 deaths in Gaza over the past 8 months, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. For the leaders of both Hamas and Israel, ending the war in Gaza has become a critical issue. The terms of the war's end could significantly impact their political futures. Hamas leader Yahya Sinwar's survival is at stake, which partly explains why previous negotiations have failed. The question of how to permanently end the fighting was postponed to the final stages of the plan outlined by U.S. President Joe Biden, who acknowledged the difficulty of transitioning from a limited hostage-for-prisoner deal to discussions about a permanent ceasefire. The U.S. has submitted a draft resolution to the UN Security Council supporting Biden's ceasefire plan, which involves ending the conflict, releasing the hostages, and reconstructing Palestinian territory. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has domestic reasons for taking a step-by-step approach to the deal. Phase 1 would see the release of dozens of hostages, both living and dead, which would be welcomed in Israel, where the failure to free all hostages is a significant issue. However, Hamas is unlikely to release its most politically sensitive hostages without guarantees that Israel won't restart the war. Leaks suggest Netanyahu has told parliamentary colleagues that Israel would keep its options open, including resuming fighting to eliminate Hamas, which is the minimum demand of his far-right coalition partners. Without their support, Netanyahu faces early elections and a continuation of his corruption trial. Netanyahu needs to keep his options open to gain support for any initial hostage deal, while Hamas leaders will likely demand permanent ceasefire guarantees. Previous deals have failed over these issues. Netanyahu talked about destroying Hamas's military and governing capabilities to ensure they no longer pose a threat to Israel. Although Hamas has suffered significant losses, its top leaders, Yahya Sinwar and Mohammed Deif, remain at large. A U.S. State Department spokesman said that while Hamas's capabilities had steadily degraded, it remained a threat, and the U.S. did not believe the group could be eliminated militarily. The White House confirmed Israel's readiness to move forward with the terms offered to Hamas, stating that Hamas was the only obstacle to a deal. Military spokesperson Rear Admiral Haggerty assured that the Israeli military could ensure security if a truce was agreed upon. Yair Kozin, a diplomatic correspondent, believes Netanyahu won't end the war without achieving significant goals. A deal leaving Hamas intact would be seen as a failure. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak suggested Biden announced the deal knowing Netanyahu expected Sinwar to refuse it. Meanwhile, tens of thousands of Israelis displaced after the October attacks are closely watching Netanyahu's next move. Among them is Yurin Sultan, who fled her home in Sderot on Gaza's border and won't return until Sinwar and Deif are no longer free. She expressed concerns that the ceasefire would lead to more future violence and hostilities. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
Former Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan has been acquitted of charges related to leaking state secrets, but will remain in jail due to a conviction in another case. In the lead-up to February's elections, the 71-year-old, who was ousted as Prime Minister in 2022, received 3 prison sentences for cases he claims are politically motivated. We have Jensen reporting on this.
In January, Khan was sentenced to 10 years in prison for allegedly making public a diplomatic cable in 2022. However, on Monday, the Islamabad High Court upheld his appeal and cleared him in that case, but he is not expected to be released from prison yet. Khan, a former cricket star, and his third wife, Bushra, are both serving prison sentences after a court ruled their 2018 marriage was un-Islamic and illegal because it occurred too soon after her divorce. Additionally, the couple was found guilty of corruption related to gifts received during his tenure as Prime Minister. Despite being behind bars, Khan remains a significant figure in Pakistani politics. In the February elections, his Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf (PTI) party, which had to field candidates as independents, became the largest single bloc but fell short of a majority. Consequently, their rivals united to form a new government. In the Cypher case, prosecutors argued that Khan had leaked a classified cable sent to Pakistan's ambassador in Washington. At a rally in March 2022, Khan, then Prime Minister, appeared on stage waving a piece of paper claiming it showed evidence of a foreign conspiracy against him. Although he did not name the country, he was highly critical of the U.S. afterward. Both Washington and Pakistani officials denied the conspiracy claim. Prosecutors contended that Khan's actions amounted to leaking a classified document and damaging diplomatic relations. His foreign minister, Shah Mahmood Qureshi, also received a 10-year prison sentence in the same case. Both men were acquitted of these charges on Monday. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
The Australian Defence Force, ADF, will open its ranks to recruits from a select group of foreign countries, including the UK, to address recruitment shortages. In an effort to strengthen its armed forces amid increasing regional threats, Australia is adjusting its eligibility criteria for military service. We have Alana reporting on this.
Starting in July, New Zealand nationals who are permanent residents of Australia will be eligible to apply. By January, this eligibility will extend to recruits from the UK, US, and Canada. Defence Minister Richard Marles emphasized that these changes are crucial to meet Australia's security challenges over the next decade and beyond. He highlighted the long-standing ANZAC bond between Australia and New Zealand, which dates back to their joint efforts in World War I. In recent years, Australia has also sought to deepen its ties with the UK and the US. In 2021, Australia signed the AUKUS Pact, a comprehensive defense and security alliance designed to counter Chinese military expansion in the Indo-Pacific region. Canberra has frequently voiced concerns about Beijing's actions, and a strategic review of the ADF last year underscored the importance of growing and retaining a skilled defense workforce as a countermeasure. The previous Australian government in 2020 announced funding of 38 billion Australian dollars, 19.8 billion pounds, $25.4 billion, to increase the number of uniformed personnel by 30% within 2 decades. However, Defence Personnel Minister Matt Keogh noted that low unemployment levels in Australia have made recruitment challenging, with recent estimates indicating the ADF is short by about 5,000 people. While Australia has historically accepted a small number of military transfers from allied nations, the new rules aim to significantly expand the pool of potential recruits. Applicants must meet ADF entry standards and security requirements, have been permanent residents of Australia for over a year, and not have served in a foreign military in the past 2 years. Additionally, they must be eligible for Australian citizenship, which they will be offered and expected to take up after 90 days of service, according to Mr. Keogh. Opposition spokesman for Foreign Affairs, Simon Birmingham, expressed no opposition to the plan, but criticized the government's defense strategy for undermining confidence and morale within the defense force. "We want to see, ideally, Australians wearing the Australian uniform," he told Sky News Australia. Australia, the UK, US, Canada, and New Zealand also collaborate closely in intelligence sharing under the Five Eyes Alliance. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
China has announced that its lunar probe has successfully taken off from the far side of the moon, marking the beginning of its journey back to Earth with the first-ever samples collected from that region. According to state media, a module of the Chang'e 6 craft, named after the moon goddess in Chinese mythology, lifted off at around 7:38 on Tuesday, 23:38 Greenwich Mean Time Monday. We have Jordan reporting on this.
The craft had landed on Sunday near the moon's south pole, a significant achievement celebrated by the international science community. China is currently the only country to have landed on the far side of the moon, having first done so in 2019. The Chinese National Space Administration, CNSA, has described the mission as an unprecedented feat in human lunar exploration. The far side of the moon, which always faces away from Earth, poses technical challenges due to its rugged terrain and deep craters. This mission aims to be the first to return rock and soil samples from this area, which scientists believe could differ significantly from formations on the moon's near side. Videos released by China's space agency showed the unmanned robotic craft extending an arm to wave the Chinese flag after collecting the samples. State media announced the module's successful takeoff, with the CNSA confirming that the probe's ascender module had lifted off from the lunar surface and entered a preset orbit around the moon. The entire probe is expected to return to a landing site in Inner Mongolia in about 3 weeks. Chinese scientists will have the first opportunity to analyze the samples, with researchers worldwide able to apply for access later. Scientists are particularly excited about the potential findings from the samples, which could include some of the moon's oldest rocks from the South Pole Aitken Basin, one of the largest known craters in the solar system. Landing on the far side of the moon is fraught with risks due to communication challenges with spacecraft. China's space authorities noted that the mission involved many engineering innovations, high risks, and great difficulty. The goal was to collect about 2 kilograms, 4.4 pounds, of material using a drill and a mechanical arm. Experts have expressed enthusiasm about the new samples. Professor John Pernett Fisher from the University of Manchester, an expert in lunar geology, highlighted the significance of analyzing rock from a different area of the moon, which could answer fundamental questions about planetary formation. The moon's south pole is particularly intriguing due to the potential presence of ice, which would be crucial for establishing a human base for scientific research. This mission marks China's second attempt to collect lunar samples. In 2020, the Chang'e 5 mission returned 1.7 kilograms of material from Oceanus Procellarum on the moon's near side. In 2019, China became the first country to land on the far side with its Chang'e 4 mission. China plans 3 more uncrewed lunar missions this decade to search for water and explore the possibility of setting up a permanent base. Beijing aims to have a Chinese astronaut walk on the moon by around 2030, while the U.S. plans to return astronauts to the moon with NASA's Artemis 3 mission in 2026. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
Waste Management, DODM, announced on Monday that it will acquire Illinois-based waste disposal company Stericycle in a deal valued at approximately $7.2 billion. According to the agreement, DODM will purchase all outstanding shares of Stericycle for $62 per share in cash. This valuation includes Stericycle's net debt of around $1.4 billion. We have Ava reporting on this.
The per-share price represents a 24% premium to Stericycle's 60-day volume-weighted average price as of May 23, the last trading day before Bloomberg reported Stericycle was exploring a potential sale following takeover interest. Both companies stated that their boards of directors unanimously approved the deal, which is expected to close as early as the fourth quarter of 2024. After the announcement, Stericycle's shares surged by about 14.6% during Monday's trading session, reaching a new 52-week high. Conversely, DODM's shares declined by about 4.5%. This news follows a report from the Wall Street Journal a day earlier, indicating that DODM was close to finalizing the deal to acquire Stericycle. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
Thanks for tuning in to World in 15 for your daily dose of news and updates. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on breaking stories and insightful analysis.